Since the bill that's pending now will probably be the last vote before recess, I think it's important that we vote on this Semper Fi amendment. Last week when I introduced the bill, the majority leader did not recess so that we could not get this on the calendar. This is an important bill, which I want to explain in a minute, but we also tried to move it through unanimous consent through our hotline process. All the Republicans approved the bill, but apparently someone on the majority side is holding it. That's why it's important that this amendment be part of the bill that we're considering today. The Semper Fi Act will rescind all earmarks, or which are specifically designated spending projects contained in the fiscal year 2008 Consolidated Omnibus Appropriation Act for the City of Berkeley and entities located therein, and redirect those funds to the United States Marine Corps. For those who haven't been paying attention to the national news, the Berkeley City Council recently voted to ask the Marine Corps to vacate their recruiting office in town, and that if they chose to stay, that they did so as uninvited and unwelcomed intruders. During the debate of the resolution at Berkeley, one of the council members called the Marines the president's own gangsters and trained killers. Another said the Marines had given the country horrible karma and said they had a history of death and destruction. In a document drafted to support the resolution against the Marines, the Council stated, military recruiters are salespeople known to lie and to seduce minors and young adults into contracting themselves into military service with false promises regarding jobs, job training, education, and other benefits. After voting to insult the men and women who fight and bleed for their freedom, the City Council cast another ridiculous vote in favor of giving the radical protest group Code Pink a free parking place directly in front of the Marine Corps recruiting station. They also voted to give Code Pink a sound permit, which allowed them to use a megaphone to intimidate and harass those who would come to the recruiting office. The City Council stated in the resolution that they encourage all people to avoid cooperation with the Marine Corps recruiting station and to applaud Code Pink for working to impede, passively and actively, the work of the Marine Corps in Berkeley. Frankly, Mr. President, I just returned from a visit to Iraq, saw our Marines on the ground and what they were doing. It's inconceivable to me that any governing body in this country would say such things to our Marines. Code Pink is a fringe organization that distinguishes itself by attacking American policy while defending dictator Hugo Chavez. The group is so disrespectful, they have no problem demonstrating in front of wounded soldiers at Walter Reed Medical Center. The Council's resolution sparked an escalation of anti-Marine protests. Code Pink organizers points to City Council as justification for this escalation. She said that anything legal is justified if it succeeds in persuading the Marine Corps to move its recruiting station out of Berkeley. According to the San Francisco Chronicle, Code Pink protesters have been heard shouting at young men who are trying to enter the recruiting station. They were saying, "You guys are just cannon fodder," and they want to train you to kill babies. It is sad to see a city like Berkeley moving so far to the left. The city in which the legendary World War II Pacific Theater commander, Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz, established the naval ROTC in the fall of 1926, is now sadly a shell of its former self, thanks to its elected leadership. This is disappointing, but in a Republican form of government, it must be up to local voters to change their leadership. However, this particular case became the business of all Americans when the city of Berkeley insulted our troops and their constitutional mission to defend our country while still coming to the federal government asking for special taxpayer-funded handouts. Over $2 million was secretly tucked away for Berkeley earmarks in the 2008 Omnibus Appropriation Bill, projects that were never voted on or debated. I do not believe that a city that has turned its back on our country's finest deserves $2 million worth of pork barrel projects. So my amendment revokes these earmarks. Included in the $2 million worth of pork here are particularly wasteful projects. One earmark provides gourmet organic lunches to schools in Berkeley School District. While our Marines are making do with military rations of sloppy joes and chili with beans, Berkeley students will be getting federal dollars to design meals that promote environmental harmony. This is unacceptable. Are we to understand that the city that has been the home of so many of the country's most rich and famous cannot afford to pay for its own designer school lunches? Another $975,000, nearly $1 million worth of an earmark, is for the Matsui Center for Politics and Public Service at the University of California at Berkeley, which may include cataloging the papers of the late Congressman Matsui. Is it really necessary to tax the paychecks of Marines so we can earmark nearly $1 million for a school that is already sitting on a $3.5 billion endowment? Let me be clear. My amendment does not cut off all federal funds to the city of Berkeley, though I'm sure many Americans would feel that that's well justified. It merely rescinds wasteful earmarks. Berkeley is free to compete with other towns and cities across America for merit-based federal grants. But actions have consequences. When the city of Berkeley decided to insult the Marines in a time of war, it was a $2 million decision. Especially in a time of war, we cannot just allow cities to play insulting games at our troops' expense while continuing to shower them with congressional favors. On Tuesday, the City Council met to revisit its ridiculous actions. Hundreds of military supporters and anti-war protesters gathered outside Berkeley City Hall. Berkeley police reported 4 arrests before the meeting began, all misdemeanors. Police said there were minor scuffles between the anti-war and pro-military camps. An American flag was set aflame outside the City Council chambers, damaging a pair of bicycles. When the council meeting finally started, more than 100 speakers took turns at the podium. In a sense, what happened in Berkeley was really a quintessential American experience. A spirited exchange and protest followed by debate and democratic action. And while I find some of the views and behavior of many of the protesters repugnant, the exchange itself is a solemn reminder of those who have sacrificed so much to preserve our freedom, especially our freedom of speech. Let me be clear. I do not question the sincerity of anyone on either side of the issue. I think there is genuine concern among many in this country about the war. But while we can respect the legitimate worries about the war and can respect the sincerity of even the most radical protesters, we must recognize that words have meaning and actions have consequences. Some of the hateful words that have come out of Berkeley, California have had real consequences on our troops, their families, and our recruiting.